In this video, you're going to see how impactful a simple lure change can be on a slow morning. We went from having a very slow morning to ending up with over an 80-inch slam by about 1 o'clock. I'm going to walk you through this fun trip, explain the mistakes I made, and then finally at the end, what made the impact to have an amazing day. So first, we started out on this beautiful weather. We were in Cedar Key, and the weather was perfect. We started right before sunrise. This is when the bite should have been good. I started with the Skinny Lipper XL that you see here. It casts a mile. When the fish are active, that's my most trusted. Then I switched to the Wake Mullet. This is one of our new lures. It's basically shallow running crankbait. And as I was casting into this lure for the first time, Liza Fitzgerald, who's fishing right next to me, she ends up hooking into a really nice trout on a shrimp lure.
Solid trout. Heck yeah. They're digging the shrimp.
This should have been my sign to make a switch, but I was being stubborn. Lo Morrison, my father-in-law, was in the back of the boat. He was getting some trout on topwater, fishing over a grass flat. There's another one. So I decided, okay, let me just keep throwing this wake bait. I wanted to get some redfish, and typically the reds will be holding next to the shoreline. So I was covering the shoreline very hard and no bites at all. Finally, I decided to make a switch and go to a shrimp lure because Liza had the best fish of the day and she was just catching more. She just released a little redfish right then. My lure choice at this point was the Prawn USA Original. This is the bigger profile. At this point, Liza had the smaller prawn, the Prawn Jr, and she was getting some good luck. So I was hoping to pick off some bigger fish, and right away, the action started.
Get right down in their faces, apparently. Oh, yep. Oh, I just got slammed.
Here's Liza catching another fish in my face. I was just about to switch to the Prawn Jr, and finally I got a hook up. And this is the cast. I'll show you the retrieve. Cast it out, let it sink to the bottom, and I was just doing a slow bounce and fish on.
That's a nicer fish, huh?
That's probably a red. I haven't, it's kind of coming right at me, so we'll see. All right, on the board, low and slow. Another 2-spotter.
Just 2 casts later, I was working a slightly deeper zone, rod tip down to let the lure get down to the bottom, and much nicer bite.
There's a nicer fish.
That's a big red. That's a big fish.
Nice.
That's a big red.
That thing hit real close, too. Whoa, easy, buddy.
Woo, he's got a lot of spots, too.
That's cool. Alright, cool looking fish. Suck down the prawn.
We kept fishing down the shoreline and just kept catching fish. It was a really good bite. A lot of these redfish were small. We caught some trout as well. So we decided, let's go look for some bigger fish. And we just picked up and moved to a different zone. And here is where I went back to a plug for a little bit. And Liza here, this is another instance where she's catching a fish right in my face. And here she's doing it again, right here on the right. She's hooking another fish. So I finally broke down and gave up on the plugs, back to the prawns, and then this next spot was absolutely insane how many fish we were catching.
All right, pulled out of the spot, doubling up. I got a pretty good sized trout. At least I have something way bigger. Let's see what you have.
Another monster
trout. Oh wow,
trout.
Nice trout.
Woo!
Dang, yeah. That's way bigger.
Yes, if we can get him in the boat.
That's a really nice trout.
Triple trout!
Yeah, this spot was absolutely loaded. We literally had a triple, and 2 of them were really nice. Both hers and Lowe's were really nice. Lowe's ended up getting off right at the last second. But shortly after, he got revenge with this really nice one. This was easily over 20 inches, solid trout. And again, it was all about just slow retrieve with these prawn jigs. We were in about 3 to 4 feet of water. There's a little bit of structure on the bottom. We had an outgoing current flow. Those shrimp must have been flowing out because I actually tried plugs a little bit here too and had nothing, but it was almost every cast with these Prawn USA jigs. And this is why I always recommend that anglers have at least 1 shrimp lure handy on any given trip.
Yeah, that's a big trout, man. Golly.
Yeah, it was insane how many fish were out there. I didn't show them all. It would have been kind of boring because it was all very similar. So this is the final stop. We wanted to get a slam, and we went to one last spot that has a little bit deeper structure. Now we're in about 10 to 15 feet of water. Still this outgoing current flow. And now I switched over to the Big Prawn USA with a 1/2 ounce weedless football jig, and game on.
There we are. Yep. All right, coming out. Yep. He's coming out now. Nice. Heck yeah. It's a heavy fish. It's got to be a snook. Be a proper slam if this is a snook. Ooh. Nice snook.
This overslot snook was the final catch of the day. So now I'm going to walk through the lures in more detail and the rods and reel. I have everything here that I was using, and I'm going to highlight the key lessons learned that I had on this trip, just so that you don't make the same mistakes that I did. I would certainly have caught a lot more fish had I not made the mistake. So number one is that I was using these hard plugs for too long. Generally, these hard plugs, let me just start with these first two lures. The first one was the Skinny Lipper XL. Last time I was in Cedar Key, the normal size Skinny Lipper was on fire. I had an amazing trip, so I just had this locked in my mind that this was going to work. Once we got to the first spot, I caught one little trout, and then that was it. And I saw a bunch of mullet that was basically in the 4 to 5 inch range. So I was like, okay, maybe this is a little bit too big. So then I switched to the wake mullet. Since the sun was still low and the fact that the water wasn't super clear, I thought that this would be a good choice. It has a nice deep rattle, but I ended up getting totally skunked on this lure. However, the next day, as you'll see in an upcoming report, this was on fire, but I was fishing different conditions. I was in a windy zone versus the calm zone. After Liza caught about the 3rd or 4th fish in my face, I finally made a switch to a shrimp lure, and I went with this Prawn Original, and this is the rigging. I'll show it up close. I couldn't show you in the video, but yeah, this is the weedless round eye. So it has a jig head, and it can be weedless. There was a lot of grass on the bottom, so this is the way I was able to dip it down in the grass, pop it out. That sort of motion where a shrimp lure is down in the grass and pops out of it, that is just as absolutely dynamite, even when fish aren't super aggressive like they were this day. They were definitely not chasing the lures, but once you get a good looking shrimp in front of their face, they're gonna smack it. Once we went to the second to last spot, I went ahead and tried the Junior. Liza was having just a lot of success with the Junior, so I did the Junior on a 1/4 ounce jig head. We were fishing in about 4 to 5 feet of water, and there was a bunch of trout there. And this thing was absolutely dynamite. We were catching a bunch of fish. And then last but not least, when we went to the snook zone, this was some deeper structure. So I had a 1/2 ounce weedless football jig. This is the Prawn Original on the 1/2 ounce weedless football jig. That way I can get down on the bottom next to the structure while staying weedless. And that is my most trusted lure in combination for catching some really nice snook when the weather's hot. Those fish will move off to deeper structure, and this thing absolutely is dynamite. For the rod and reel, this is my snook setup. This is what I caught the big snook on. This is the medium heavy slot machine with 20-pound braid and a 3000 size ballistic. This is a really nice combo. It's super lightweight. It's just 10.25 ounces. And that includes the rod, the reel, and the line, and it has the power to catch some really nice fish and crazy good sensitivity. As far as the rod I was using for most of the day up in the shallows, it's the medium power slot machine, and this is my 2500 Otis. And what I have is just 10-pound braid rigged on this, and this is just a great all-purpose setup. These slot machine rods, this series is by far the best as far as performance that I've ever used. I can feel everything. So if you're looking for a good rod to maximize performance, definitely look into this slot machine. These rods are actually $100 off for Insider Club members, so definitely make sure to join if you haven't yet done so. Simply doing so, and if you get this rod, you're going to pay for the entire year of your membership. These items are only available at fishstrong.com, so if you want to try this out, make sure to go to fishstrong.com. And in case you're new to any of these lures, at the bottom of the description for each of them is a link to see some tutorials on exactly how to rig these lures, how to retrieve them to maximize your results. Any questions at all, leave a comment down below. Otherwise, hope to see you again soon.